Hello and welcome back to Smash Hit Sports. The college football regular season has come and gone. What a hell of a season we had. And rivalry week. I mean, it was nothing short of crazy, Nick. We had the Iron Bowl miracle. We had Michigan beating Ohio State for the third year in a row. We had some overtime games that, like, not only were they crazy, they were actually, like, incredibly important to the college football playoff picture. And then we now have the full conference championship preview this week. I mean, how crazy was this last week of college football? It delivered. It rose to the peak. Oh.
All season we were kind of asking for like where's the chaos? You know, we kind of thought it was going to be 2 weeks ago. It kind of feels like we got the chaos this week. Obviously, you had teams like Alabama, Washington State, a couple teams, Oklahoma State, that were on the ropes and pulled it out. But you still had some top 10 teams go down. You had Louisville dropping to Kentucky. Michigan, Ohio State did not disappoint at all. That game was incredible. It's just overall a masterful end to the regular season. And I hope it continues on and we just stay on this course.
Yeah, let's get into that game because obviously the biggest game of the weekend, it might be, I haven't seen the numbers on it, but if I were to guess, I would say it's probably the most watched college football game of the year. Michigan beating Ohio State, no Harbaugh on the sidelines, which I don't know if it really mattered that much since he coached them all throughout the week, but damn, what a game. I think more than anything, it just showed how, like, Michigan is a machine. They are a machine, dude. I don't know how we're going to stop them.
So I just looked it up. I'm seeing that it's probably around 20 million people that viewed it, which is a ton. Last year it was 17 million. I think that might be the highest ever. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but the ratings aren't like fully out, so that's kind of speculation from what I'm reading. But
yep,
very cool and fascinating. Yeah, Ryan Day, 1-3 against Michigan all time, has lost 3 in a row. You know, that is not what you're hired for. You're honestly in Michigan and Ohio State. Part of it is you're hired to beat each other. And for Ryan Day, when Harbaugh's not even on the other sideline, this was your chance. Go beat them. But he couldn't do it. So, I mean, yeah, it was spectacular. Both running games were dominant. It came down to the wire. Exactly what we wanted to happen.
Yeah, and I wasn't I know I saw there were a couple of Ohio State former players who were tweeting at guys like, yo, you should transfer to Ohio State. I didn't think Kyle McCord was that bad. Obviously, he had the 2 interceptions, the one late game. I mean, I don't really blame him for that a whole hell of a lot. Like, you're trying to force the ball down the field with a minute left. The one early in the game that led to that touchdown, though, kind of killed him. But outside of that, like, the quarterbacks played a pretty clean game. J.J. McCarthy did exactly what J.J. McCarthy is asked to do by Michigan, which is don't make any mistakes, don't fuck up, don't turn the ball over. He did those 3 things, and they were good. Michigan's offensive line is terrifying. Obviously, they have the injury to guard Zach Zinter, which I don't know if I think he's probably done for the year. So
I'm pretty sure his ankle or his leg, it like was a Jordan Travis type injury. You couldn't see it because, again, he was in the trenches. But I spent a good amount of time trying to find out what happened, just scrolling through like Twitter and Reddit. And a lot of people were saying like, oh yeah, his leg snapped in half. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. And again, he was in the air cast. You see that happen when your leg is completely broken. So yeah, he's definitely done, which blows because he's probably one of the best draft prospects that Michigan has on their team this year, as far as the NFL goes. So,
yep, for sure. And I think he'll still likely be, a pretty high round pick. He's a guard, which unfortunately isn't a premium position in the NFL. But when you
saw it with
that talented,
Andrew Voorhees, I think he was USC's guard 2 years ago. He tore his Achilles he tore like every like ACL, MCL, PCL, whatever at the combine, I think.
Yep.
He was supposed to be like first, second round pick, fell all the way to late 7th round, which is kind of wild. So I wouldn't be shocked if Zinter dropped a lot because odds are he's not going to be, healthy or whatever team drafts him is not going to throw him into the fire as a rookie. So it's interesting. We'll have to see. But
hey, as a Bengals fan, I'll take his ass. That's for sure. That is for sure.
The Ravens are the ones that drafted Voorhees. That's kind of why I even know that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, about Ohio State. I feel like throughout the season, both of us were like, we think Ohio State should be ranked 1. Their resume is better than Michigan and Georgia. Blah blah blah, so on and so forth. But then you look back and it's like, okay, that Wisconsin team that we were like, that's a tough game on their schedule. Wisconsin's no good.
Barely bowl eligible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people had them in their college football playoff, which is crazy.
I know. I did. Yeah. It's not great. Actually, I had Clemson, USC, and Wisconsin in my college football playoff. None of them got to 9 wins.
None of them ended the season unranked. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, Clemson's ranked right now.
They didn't make the top AP poll.
We were ranked in the college football playoff last week. We'll see. But so Rutgers finished 6-6. Penn State obviously was never going to win those games because they just are Penn State. That Maryland team that we kind of thought was sneaky good that played Ohio State before they played anyone else. Maryland ends up 7-5. Even Notre Dame, good team, but like not as impressive as a win when you look back at it. So you look and it's like, well, Ohio State's resume isn't even that spectacular. You could argue that Michigan had the same resume, by the end of the year. So I think by the end, that's why I went with Michigan in our game picks, because I was like, this is why the full season matters so much. I think we were just a little hyping up Ohio State a little bit too much. I just don't think they were as good this year, plain and simple. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some coaches who are on the hot seat in some shape or another in a later segment. But for any Ohio State fan that thinks they should get rid of Ryan Day, you're out of your mind. You are out of your mind.
He's not even in this segment. He's not going to. I'm not even going to ask.
No, his seat shouldn't be hot at all. The issue with Ohio State has been and will continue to be the same issue that they've had for the last 20 years. And that is the expectation is a national championship. And when you do, they went 11-1 this year. They're outstanding. They still have a shot at the college football playoff. And you're thinking about firing your coach? That's that doesn't even process in my mind as to
No, it's true. That's the best way to put it, is that as of right now, Ohio State could still win the national championship game.
Yes.
Right today. Which, how are you talking about, we should fire our coach? If they end up not getting in, it would make a tiny bit more sense, but it does not make sense at all, really, to me, which is why I'm not going to include him in this segment. It's like if you took Dabo Swinney's resume from when Ryan Day was hired and compared the two, I think Ryan Day has more wins, more college football playoff appearances. They both got to a national championship game in that time, and they're both not on the hot seat. It's just plain and simple.
Yeah. Yep.
If anyone should be out of those two, it would probably be Dabo.
Yeah, honestly. And even then, still not at all. But let's go to Louisville dropping the game to Kentucky, which this was, I don't know if for those of you I've watched a lot of Louisville football this year, and for better or for worse, they've been a very up and down team. Even in that, the fact that they've been 10-2 is a testament to how good this Louisville team has been. Don't get me wrong. However, they played up and beat Notre Dame by double digits at home. And then they lost to Pitt, right? Yep. They've played up and down to teams all year. And Plummer, their quarterback, has kind of done that as well. He's played a little bit up, a little bit of down. They played down today. And Ray Davis had an outstanding game. Kentucky had an outstanding game against them. And at the end of the day, Louisville didn't have the depth to play consistently week in and week out. Sometimes you're going to lose those ball games. They lost this one. I don't think it means they don't have a shot to win the ACC. However, they're out of the playoff.
Of course not. Of course not. Yeah, they're definitely not in the playoff. But what you're saying is completely true. Probably, if we're going to do an award for the most inconsistent team, which we'll probably do that next week, I would probably give it to Louisville, because you look at it, they, early in the season, kind of escaped with a win against Georgia Tech at the beginning of the year. Then they had to scrap and claw to a win against Indiana, which is not supposed to happen,
Yep.
right? But then they slaughter a Boston College team who the week before only lost to Florida State by 3. They beat NC State on the road, who is ranked, and then they crush Notre Dame. Great. Then they lose to Pittsburgh. But then they shut out Duke, prime Duke, with, Riley Leonard, the Duke team that was still playing really good football. They're maybe ranked at the time.
Yep.
They crushed Virginia Tech, a Virginia Tech team that just throttled UVA, which props to you because that was on your best bets last week, and that was free. But then they played UVA the next week, and they barely beat UVA.
Yeah.
So it's like, what it makes sense. They beat Miami in a good game, then they lose to Kentucky. I feel like Louisville was never really that good, but their schedule and just how inconsistent they were. I mean, honestly, a good year. Like, if I'm a Louisville fan, I'm happy where we stand, and you get to win the ACC if you beat Florida State without their starting quarterback.
Yep, and it certainly ain't over. Moving on to a couple of rivalry games that were just outstanding. Nick Saban and Alabama, how do they fucking do it? Every year, man. Every year. In our notes here, I just have Alabama 4th and 31. And if you didn't watch the game and didn't watch that last play or
don't have a phone
last important play,
living under a rock.
That 4th and 31, that third down, they had a bad snap, went behind Jalen Milroe, which an incredibly fucking cheese move by Auburn. Their like safety or linebacker, one of them is clapping like before the play because they've been going on a clap the entire game. It's way too loud to like go on any other like non-count. So they were going on a clap silent count. Well, the fucking Auburn player was clapping, and that's why
that's just 200 IQ right there. I didn't know that.
It is. It's also illegal. Like, if had the ref noticed, he could throw a flag for that.
But if it's too loud for him to notice, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's cheating.
I mean, hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. It's a smart move.
I respect that. I'm going to go out and say I respect that.
But Jalen Milroe on 4th and 31 throws an absolute fucking dart to the back of the end zone. A beautiful pass, a beautiful catch, an incredible play to go up on. Like, they were going to lose that game had they not converted. Auburn, this is the Hugh Freeze experience. This is the Hugh Freeze experience. They'll get up for these games. They'll play you tough, but goddamn, they rushed like 2 guys on that last play. They'd been getting after Milroe all game, gave him no time to move, no time to breathe. And then on the last play, they're like, yeah, we're just going to drop 8 and see what happens. Drop 8, spy 1. Just an unbelievably dumb thing to do. And
the thing is, they drop 8 or 9 in coverage, yet the guy who makes the catch is basically one-on-one.
Yeah, single coverage.
No one else is in the ballpark over there. So it's like, how is that possible that you have 7 or 8 defenders on one side of the ball, and in the back left corner, it's just Alabama's top-tier wide receiver talent against, to be fair, DJ, I forget his last name, but that's a good corner prospect this year for Auburn. But you can't, like, if you're going to drop that many in coverage and not rush anyone, why is he on an island? I don't get it. It's also crazy to me that on that bad snap, Jalen Milroe, being as fast as he is, as athletic as he is, he picked the ball up, and because there was no one rushing, there was no one, like, he could have just picked it up and ran and, like, saved so much, so many yards, but he just, like, tripped and fell, like, even farther back, and I was like, oh my God, that's, like, the most embarrassing, like, there's no way they win after something like that. And of course, 4th and 31. The Iron Bowl never disappoints, and it's making me upset because in our rivalry draft, with the first pick of the second round, I picked the Egg Bowl. Which is a great rivalry, but of course it should have been the Iron Bowl. I mean, it never disappoints. It's every year.
Yeah,
so
it was outstanding. It was absolutely outstanding. Another rivalry that I still think it's one of the most underrated rivalries in the country, the Apple Cup. And this year, I mean, obviously means a hell of a lot for Washington, especially. That game goes into overtime. I mean, or did it go into overtime, or did they end that in regulation?
Oh, that's a really good question. I I don't remember because I remember watching it.
It was they had a field goal to win it last play of the game, winding down. So essentially, Washington has one of the ballsiest calls I've ever seen. They go and they run like a jet sweep essentially, to get the ball into Odunze's hands on the final scrimmage play before they go kick that field goal to get him into field goal range. Just an unbelievable gutsy call by Kalen DeBoer. If he's not in, he should absolutely be in the National Coach of the Year conversation. And then they kick the game-winning field goal as time expires. Holy shit, what a game.
I mean, yeah, that end around play to Odunze, if you were watching the broadcast, totally got fooled by it. So they were tracking the running back. So obviously everyone watching, including myself, I'm like, oh God, why are they even running? That guy's getting swallowed up, gain of 3. And then you see Odunze just wide open with the ball. I was like, holy shit, the balls that DeBoer has to call that. Unbelievable. I definitely thought Washington State was going to win that game. So he kind of needed to pull something out of his hat like that. Yeah, I mean, what's the deal with the big realignment going on in college football? The Apple Cup, ideally, I don't know, which is why I'm asking, but it's still going to be played, right?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to be honest. I don't know the answer to that because I know the Civil War is not being played. So I don't know if Washington is bringing their rivalry game with them or not. And unfortunately, that's a damn shame because that game was awesome. Michael Penix didn't play an outstanding game, but that was a hell of a football game, start to finish.
That's so tragic that Oregon's not bringing that rivalry. Hopefully they do something to fix that soon. But we'll move on to Oklahoma State, who was down tremendous against BYU.
I mean, it was what, 28-7 at one point?
Yeah, it was over to the point where I wasn't even checking the score. And then I just saw, I think I was watching post Iron Bowl, CBS, the highlight reel. And they're like, oh, this is what's happening around college football. And they checked in live, and Oklahoma State made a huge strip tackle in overtime. I was like, no way, they just won that game.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable game. The Cougars were fighting for bowl eligibility, and Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy, man, just when you think they're down, just when you think they're dead, they were down. It was 24-6 going into the half, and Oklahoma State scored 21 in the second half to BYU's 3, sent it into overtime, double overtime. I mean, just an unbelievable game. An unbelievable game.
What was your Big 12 championship before the season started? Was it Texas, Oklahoma State?
It was Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
It was Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
Yep.
So you got Oklahoma State right.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I was certain that it was going to be Texas, Oklahoma. So definitely, if I'm being honest, I'm kind of disappointed that it's not, because and we'll get to this in a little bit, but I do think Texas is probably going to beat Oklahoma State by a lot.
Yeah.
But let's talk some coaching hires that just happened.
Yeah. Yep. Let's do it. The Texas A&M saga is so weird. So weird. Did you see the buzz on social media Saturday night?
No, I don't think so.
Essentially, it was all but confirmed that Mark Stoops was going to be at Texas A&M. I saw posts everywhere, from people who are very not just some, the bloggers and the Reddit threads and that kind of stuff. Some very legitimate people were tweeting that Stoops to A&M was a done deal. And that, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it fell through. I don't know, whatever. But Mike Elko officially an Aggie. Nick, what do you think of the hire?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about that drama. I did see breaking news, Stoops staying in Lexington, and I was like,
yep.
What's so breaking news about that? I was kind of confused, but I like it. When a couple of weeks ago we were talking about who's the best fit for A&M, we did a little segment where you were asking me out of the coaches, offered on this, ESPN article, as far as like Texas A&M coaching candidates, who do you think could do it? Who do you think not? Mike Elko was definitely one of like
Yep.
3 people that I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Obviously, Jed Fish would have been one, but like guys like Dabo and Lincoln Riley and Dan
Yeah.
Campbell of the Lions, they were
Yeah.
never going to go to A&M. It was never going to happen. That's what outraged me so much when I read it. But I like the hire. It's crazy. Like some casual fans might be like, Mike Elko, Duke went 7-5. Like
Yeah.
they're not like, why would we hire him? And it's like, well, Duke had kind of a roller coaster of a season, dealt with a lot of injuries. They should not have even been as good as they were.
Yeah.
Like they were really, really, really good this year, and Mike Elko is the reason why. So should be good. He's a defensive-minded guy,
Yep.
which I think is going to be good for Texas A&M to kind of shore up that defense because they have so much talent.
Yeah, and I don't. People are going to say, "Well, he's not a great recruiter." He was recruiting to Duke. Like, don't get me wrong. Like Duke, good school, great program, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, it's not
They also-
Texas A&M. It's not. This is the SEC. It's different.
I also think there's like a GPA requirement when you're trying to recruit for Duke.
Yes.
Like you can't recruit these guys that have like a 1.5 GPA in high school, but like the SEC doesn't care about that.
Not at all. Not at all. And the resources that he's going to have that are invested into Texas A&M and everything, he'll be just fine recruiting. And he can develop guys. Like he was outstanding at that at Duke. So I think this is a phenomenal hire. Not my favorite hire of the day, but a really, really good hire. The numbers are out, Nick. I don't know if you've seen them.
No.
Okay, so he was signed to a 6-year deal, $7 million base salary.
Oh,
so not
it's a pretty good bargain.
Yeah, not super expensive. This is what I find very interesting. These are the incentives. If he makes the college football playoff, $1 million bonus.
Wow.
If he makes it to the quarter, so remember, this is 12-team playoff. If he makes the 12-team playoff, $1 million bonus. If he advances to the quarterfinals or wins the SEC, $1.5 million bonus. If he advances to the semifinals, $2 million. Advances to the championship game, $2.5 million. If he wins the damn thing, $3.5 million bonus.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
I like this for Texas A&M though, because they will shell out money to win. They have no problem shelling out money to win. And now that money's going to come out with results, not with attempts, which is what the Jimbo Fisher, you're paying him $11 million to try. Now you still might pay Mike Elko $11 million, but that's if and when he succeeds. And if not, I still think you got a really good fucking coach.
Yeah, and that's a good bargain. I like the incentives. It reminds me that I saw an article saying that Jimbo Fisher, like towards the end of his reign with A&M, was obsessing over like 24/7 recruiting, like rankings. He wanted to have the highest rated class of all time. He was just so locked in. He was reaching out to people at 24/7 Sports to be like, what do you like? Do you think this guy is rated? If he's gonna like get rated higher, like I want him, because obviously some of the juniors in high school, they're all 4-stars. So he's like, is this guy gonna be a 5-star? What have you seen? Like he was just so locked into that instead of like actually winning and being a coach, which is crazy. And yeah, I don't think that's gonna be the case with Mike Elko if I had to take a guess. So good things coming for A&M.
Yep.
I'm assuming.
I agree. Speaking of another school that has some good things coming, and we'll talk about the flip side of this because, God, poor Oregon State, man. But Jonathan Smith, hired by Michigan State. I'm going to have to go back through the archives. But I know, and you can attest to this, I've been saying Jonathan Smith is going to be a Michigan State Spartan for months now. I mean, it was going to happen. He's an outstanding coach, defensive mind, like with Oregon State not having a home next year in terms of conference, Jonathan Smith was gone. And it's unfortunate because Jonathan Smith, I didn't know this until this weekend, but he went to Oregon State. Like he's an alumni of
Oh
Oregon
wow, I
State,
didn't know that.
and at Michigan State poaching him. But
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, I like the Mike Elko hire by Texas A&M. I really do. I love the Jonathan Smith to Michigan State hire. I think that I'll be hard pressed to find a hire that I like more than this all off season by anybody.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you definitely have been saying it. I remember. And it feels like it has to be just like he gets the offer. He's like, if I stay in Oregon State, who are we even going to be playing? What's our conference? Like everything is just pointing downhill for that program. So it's great that he got to get out while he could. Michigan State has kind of been not great for a while now. Like the last time I can remember them being like at the top of college football was the mid 2010s. So it's been like
Yep.
8-9 years of just mediocre football at best. So he gets to be the new face of this school, turn the program around. This brings me to ask, like, what have you seen about the Pac-2? What are they going to do? Do we know?
So they've signed a scheduling agreement with the Mountain West. So they're going to play a essentially Mountain West schedule. They will not be eligible for the Mountain West championship game. For the auto bid process for the NCAA, and this goes with basketball, baseball, softball, football, whatever. For anything that has an auto bid, your conference has to have, I think it's at least 5 members. So they won't get like an auto bid for winning the Pac-12 championship to make it to like the NCAA tournament. So no team will have an auto bid anywhere. It'll be really interesting. I'm not sure what the path forward for those two teams is.
Yeah, there's a very slim chance that they ever really make it to the playoff, barring some miracle undefeated season or something, I guess. But that's very unfortunate. I'm sure eventually it'll kind of work itself out. Like, obviously, it's not going to be the Pac-2 forever. Yeah. But for the time being, that's pretty disappointing for people that go to those schools,
Yep, I agree. I absolutely agree. All right, let's get into props too, because we've got some dudes who need to get some props. Nick, do you want to do the honors?
Yeah, I'll start with our classic props. Props to Liberty, 12-0. I'm excited to see where they end up being ranked tomorrow in the college football playoff, because again, 12-0 is very impressive, but they're not in a very tough conference. So I get it if they're hovering around 20. I personally have them higher, just because I just think there should be enough of a reward for having a perfect season that influences having a perfect season. Like if you're just 12-0 and people are like, but you stink. It's like, well, no, let's reward Liberty. So I'll reward Liberty by doing what I can, and that's me giving them props.
Hey, I know all the Liberty fans listening, all the love and respect to that. Props to James Madison and Jacksonville State. You are bowl eligible. Thank you to the Clemson Tigers for doing what needed to be done. For one, making me look very correct when in my SEC predictions I said South Carolina was not going to make a bowl game. You made me look very smart. And now we get to see James Madison and Jacksonville State, which should be, it means more good football, and I'm a fan of that. So,
yeah,
shout out.
Yeah, I'm very happy that both those teams they're going to get to play postseason football. They both deserve it, especially JMU. So yeah, props to them. I'll give props to Jaden Daniels. He is just the 5th quarterback in SEC history to cross the 50 touchdown in a season mark. Quick trivia follow-up. Can you name the other 4, do you think?
All right. So the other 4 quarterbacks in SEC history to cross 50 touchdowns. Number 1 is Joe Burrow.
He had like 60 something.
Yep.
It was an insane number.
Yep. I'm going to go number 2 being Johnny Football.
No.
Johnny Football was not one.
No.
Was Cam one? Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam Newton was one.
Okay. Who? This is going to be gross, and I don't like it. Was Mac Jones one?
No.
Okay.
No, Mac Jones was not.
Outside of that, there's not any names that's jumping off the top of my head. Are they more recent or older guys?
Yeah, they're all relatively recent.
I would say like Tua or Jalen Hurts, one of those two.
Let me refind the article to make sure that I am not tripping when I say this. It is okay. So you have Burrow and you have Newton. You're missing a quarterback from 2007 and 2021.
2000 in 2021.
Yeah.
2020 is it Tua or Jalen Hurts or who the fuck would it be? Will Rogers?
No, they all won the Heisman.
Who won the?
Which is kind of why I wanted to include this because
who won the Heisman in 2021? That's in the SEC.
It was Alabama's quarterback who won the Heisman.
Mac Jones. I said that.
No, he didn't win the Heisman.
Oh, hold on. Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, Tua. Who else is not Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, or Tua?
When do you think Mac Jones was drafted?
I don't know, dude. Played? My brain is in a blender. Oh, Bryce Young.
Who is
Bryce Young? Get off my ass.
All right.
Okay, fuck. My brain was in a pretzel there for a minute. 2020. That's COVID, dude. That's COVID. That doesn't count.
That's
2007.
Yeah.
2007. That's like the Sam Bradford. Who else? Is it Tebow?
It is. Yeah, Tim Tebow.
Tebow had 50 touchdowns. That's crazy.
55 total touchdowns. Yeah,
that's crazy. I don't know if I'd have guessed that. Wow, damn.
Yeah,
that's elite.
But
that's elite. There's a lot of Heismans in that list.
All four won a Heisman, and Jaden Daniels has, games to play. Obviously, he could opt out of the bowl game.
He shouldn't.
He shouldn't, and if he doesn't, he's going to end up with more touchdowns than both Bryce Young and Cam Newton. And, if he puts on a masterclass more than Tim Tebow, he won't get to Joe Burrow, obviously. Yeah. But the fact that all four won the Heisman, and if Jaden Daniels doesn't win the Heisman, then that's just blasphemy in my eyes.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to do props, too. Props to Ollie Gordon. You want to talk about a dude doing his damn thing. 5 touchdowns in the second half and overtime of that Oklahoma State game. If he is not the absolute front runner for the Doak Walker Award, then we should stop giving awards because he has put his team on absolutely on his back. He's had an unbelievable year, and what a way to finish it, bringing his team to a Big 12 championship.
Yeah, I mean, I know he has to be the front runner because he's leading the FBS in rushing yards as well. So amazing. And I think he's coming back. He's like a sophomore, so he's coming back. I'll give props to another sophomore, Noah Fifita, for basically having an exponential climb into star status before our very eyes. Because Arizona's been playing great, and they've been on our props to list. And I'll give Arizona props, I'll throw it out there because they deserve it every week, it seems, at this point. But Fifita has been the forefront of that, although it's been 200 yards, 250 and 3 touchdowns, some pretty good games. And then why not in rivalry week to end the season, throw for 550 yards, 5 total touchdowns, just have a masterclass. There's a lot of quarterbacks in all of college football that could never put up stats like that. I don't care who you play for or what defense you're playing. You're not putting up stats like that. Fifita going into next year in a week 2025 NFL draft, which as of right now, if I ask you, name the top prospects, QB prospects for that draft, you probably wouldn't even know who to say.
Quinn Ewers would be the only one I could think of that I would
if he comes back. I don't. That's if he comes back, I guess.
Yep.
I think Shedeur Sanders is coming back, but when you look online, it's Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller. It's oh God, no. So good for Fifita for what he just did to his own reputation.
Yep, absolutely. Another shout out, a guy that we kind of shit on his grave a little bit, and he ain't dead yet. Matt Campbell and Iowa State. I mean, what a way to end the season. They came in last in the Big 12 last year, and a lot of people, threw them off to the side, said, Iowa State, non-issue, non-problem. They were a problem for a lot of teams, including the Kansas State Wildcats. Farmageddon, the snow football in that game.
Oh, beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Gorgeous.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like maybe my favorite game of the week. And bonus props, Will Howard now announced that he's transferring. So shout out Matt Campbell for that. You've now beat Kansas State and maybe ruined their future.
Future Michigan State quarterback?
We shall see. We'll see what Jonathan Smith has in his recruiting bag. He did get DJU, right? So he has some history. Final props to, I'm going to give props to Boise State. Speaking of coaches that got fired, Boise State fired their coach mid-season. And then they went out and won the last 2 or 3 games of the season, finished 7-5 with the best record in the Mountain West. So they're playing in the Mountain West championship game. If they win that game, they go 8-5, get an auto bid somewhere. I don't know what bowl it is, but that would be a really good season for Boise State. That was pretty disappointing throughout this season.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm going to do one last props too. Props to Wild Mike's in North Bend, Ohio, Shady Lane. They gave me this sick hat, and the watching college football at the bar is just such a great experience when you have the right crowd, the right drinks flowing, the whole 9 yards. And I'm a slut for free merch. So shout out Wild Mike's. I told him I would. And Scott, if you're listening, I appreciate you. All right.
Shout out Scott.
Yeah, hell of a guy.
All right.
New segment alert.
New segment. We love new segments. We'll have to add some music for every new segment alert.
Actually, that's ESPN. We can't do that.
Yeah. But this segment I'll be hosting today, it's called the Who's Getting Fired segment. I'm going to ask Cody, or just give Cody a couple names of some head coaches around college football. And Cody's going to have to give me a percentage chance that he thinks they're not going to be the head coach of that team to start the 2024 college football season. With that, we will start with Mario Cristobal.
Look, I'm going to go 15%. His seat's warm, right? The expectations are starting to catch up with him a little bit, but I don't think he's going to get fired.
Okay. So there is a slim chance in your eyes.
Yeah.
I would probably agree. I'd maybe put it a little higher, but he is a really good recruiter. It's just a couple disappointing years back-to-back for a good program. Not what you want. They have a lot of money. They could hire anyone. Next coach, Chip Kelly.
Yeah, Chip Kelly's tough because if you'd have told me at the beginning of the year that he'd be on this list, I wouldn't have believed you. Now I'm going to go like a 40% chance. I guess his seat's hot. I don't think it's likely. But I also think it's one of those where if UCLA sees somebody, they're making calls. They just need the right person to pick up the phone for them to fire Chip Kelly. So we'll see if that happens. I don't know if it does. So I'm going to go 40.
I think I'd honestly go a little bit higher for that one as well. I can see it now. The loss to Cal feels like, Hugh Freeze with Liberty last year, where it was just the team quit on him. UCLA was pretty good at the beginning of the season, and it seems like just got worse and worse and worse throughout the season. Not great, especially to lose 33-7 to Cal. That's really not good. So I can see that headline, breaking news, Chip Kelly fired, blah, blah, blah. I can see that happening. I'd do 55%. What about Tony Elliott, head coach of Virginia right now?
100%. 100%. Okay. Virginia, you got to turn over a new leaf. It's time. It didn't work. One of the biggest mistakes in college football is not getting rid of the guy when you should have gotten rid of the guy. And I don't think Virginia will make that mistake. I think he's gone.
It's interesting. I don't know if I'd say 100. It'd be in the 90s. I think he should get fired. But he got that team that doesn't have a lot of talent. He got them to play some good football in some random games this year. They beat UNC, played a couple teams close. But yeah, he's probably gone. What about Kirk Ferentz?
I'm going to say 0%. But this is what percent does he get fired? What percent does he retire? I don't think is 0%. However, I don't think he'll be fired. 0%. He made the Big Ten championship, and that means something to Iowa, even though they're probably going to get shit pumped by Michigan.
They're going to get shit pumped. And, I mean, as far as, scoring 25 points per game, didn't get close. So there's some drama
There's
there.
a point where their total last week wasn't 25 points. That's crazy.
Yeah. They actually wouldn't have even hit that either.
Under.
All right, what about Brett Bielema, Illinois head coach?
Yeah, I don't think he's been there long enough. I think it's like a 50-50 shot. 3 years, 5-7, 8-5, 5-7. It's Illinois. I think they're okay with giving it a go one more year. So I'll say it's a 50-50 shot, truly.
Okay, and then last one, Shane Beamer.
I think it's like 30. I don't.
Okay.
I obviously not making the bowl game is disappointing, but they did have that last year that was like, hey, it's pretty fun. We beat Clemson. In Tennessee. And I think that lives on a little bit. So like a 30% chance.
There are allegations of sign stealing in those 2 games last year that was definitely brought up this weekend from all my friends. Yeah, I mean, I think Shane Beamer, it might be higher. Pretty bad season for South Carolina, but we'll see. He is also kind of a newer coach, so maybe South Carolina's like YOLO. We'll see if last year was a fluke. See if we can get Beamer back to playing Beamer ball. But he's going to start the season next year probably on a warm seat if he isn't fired.
Yep. And
yeah, that ends the segment. There are probably a couple people not on that list that will end up getting fired. But these are kind of the biggest names that I could think of.
And Tom Allen at IU, he was fired, which 3rd largest buyout in college football history, Tom Allen. What?
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know the name.
Yeah.
So that's shocking.
Yeah, crazy. And then Dana Holgerson is out at Houston, so it'll be interesting to see kind of who fills those gigs. But
yeah, and he'll go somewhere else. He'll be a coordinator
somewhere. All right. So last week's picks, Nick, you did a hell of a job. Of a job. 9-3.
9-3.
We both missed on Louisville. Which hey, that'll happen.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yep. That being said, I went 8-4. You went 9-3. Overall, we know ball. I think it was a good ball knowing, week for us.
Yep.
Yeah, 95-66 is your record. I crossed the 100 win mark, 104-57. We're moving on pretty good. So,
and I'm within 9. Going into conference championship week, obviously.
Yep, brought it back down to single digits. That was huge.
Yeah, back down to single digits is big time. There are, with all the bowls and these 10 games, a lot of opportunity to change these standings. This is the playoff. You have the 1 seed, pretty much locked up unless you go 0-10 and I go 10-0 this week, which isn't going to happen because there's too much overlap. This is the thing, though. Normally we do 12 games, but this week we're going to be giving a score. So my thought is those 2, wins or losses that could have been added to the standings, we could kind of do a bonus point system where whoever is the closest combined, total score, whatever, will get 2 bonus points.
Okay. I'm in. Yeah. I'm in. Let's do 1 point for the pick, 1 point for the score.
Okay, so then 20 total?
20 total points.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, cool. All right. Reminder, before we do the picks, make sure to like the video. Best way to help and support the podcast. If you are listening to the audio version, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, we could use some reviews. If you want to take some time out of your day, leave a little review for the boys. Would be huge.
Oh yeah.
Big time. Only nice things though. Only nice things. If you want to leave a 1-star review, just tweet at me. I'd rather hear it there. So.
Right.
All right. Let's get into these conference championship games. We're going to predict every one. We got 2 Friday night. The one is the biggest spread. Well, one of the bigger spreads of college or conference championship weekend. New Mexico State at Liberty. Liberty should win this game, right? I mean, New Mexico State's sneaky. Don't get me wrong, but
They've been playing some good football. They just beat Jacksonville State after beating Auburn, an Auburn team that almost beat Alabama.
yep.
I know it's any given week. It's so fascinating to me that the Conference USA has a team from New Mexico playing a team from Virginia, in your conference championship game. Like, where is the neutral site being held? Where is that game being played? I have no idea. I don't know. You probably don't even know, but you can look it up.
Yeah, I'll look it up real quick.
I'm going Liberty as well. I think it's going to be closer, though. I'm going 31-28. You're going 31-20.
Yeah, the 10.5 point spread I think is pretty like on the nose. This line hasn't moved since it dropped. That being said, I like New Mexico. I think New Mexico State has a decent chance to cover, but like I think Liberty ultimately wins the game. They play in the Conference USA. Their championship game is in Lynchburg, Virginia. So they will host.
It's like a host situation.
Yeah. So
well, then that kind of explains the spread a little bit.
Yeah.
You think? All right. Well, we're still both going Liberty.
Yep.
But that maybe I would have changed my score a little bit. It's all right.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Next game, huge, massive game. Maybe the game of the weekend. Oregon at Oregon Washington.
Yeah, this game's going to be outstanding. They're playing it in Las Vegas, so a neutral site that's pretty far away from both of these squads. Washington is a 9.5 point dog, which
kind of wild.
Is a terrifyingly large line. Over under 67, the highest of the conference championship game, so should be a lot of scoring. I'm super excited for this game. This might be the game of the weekend. 8:00 kickoff, night game, Friday night. I mean, Pac-12 after dark for one last go. One last Pac-12 game.
That's so true. Oh my God.
I can't wait.
Like, it's the last time we're going to see the Pac-12 logo. Like, oh man. I'm emotional. But if I have to give a pick here, I mean, if spreads didn't exist or if we weren't allowed to look at it, I'd be in the weeds trying to figure this out. But the fact that it's 9.5 means you got to go Oregon, because that's honestly Vegas being generous. They know that they don't have to make this a 12-point line to get people to bet Washington. People are going to be betting Washington plus 9.5 left and right with that spread. So you got to take Oregon on that one. I have them winning 34-30, which obviously Washington would cover the spread in that situation, but that's more so me hoping for a competitive game.
Yeah, I have Oregon winning 45-35, just covering that 9.5 points. And I think it's going to, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of bets, but we're both on Oregon in this one. It should be an outstanding game. Bo Nix, Michael Penix. This game came down to the wire in Seattle earlier in the season. I mean, we don't need to hype this game up. It's going to be outstanding.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, moving on to Saturday, the Big 12 championship is the first conference championship game to kick off, and we get Oklahoma State, 19th Oklahoma State, at number 7 Texas. The Ollie Gordon show makes his way into Texas. I'm excited for this game. It's a 14.5 point line. Texas wins.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State's good enough to make this a good competitive ball game.
It's interesting. They didn't play in the regular season, which you always love to see that.
Yeah.
Because it's just a true extension of the regular season. I don't know what the score would have been if they had played, but again, Texas TCU recently was pretty close. Texas Iowa State, was pretty close. Oklahoma State, I think, is definitely good enough with a 14-point spread to fight. But there's also on the other side of it, Texas knows that they kind of need style points, to make the Final Four here, given, certain scenarios happening. And I think that as far as, Sarkisian motivating his guys, I think Texas can kind of put the work on Oklahoma State. So I'm going to take Texas 42, Oklahoma State 24, which we'll have to see if that's enough for Texas to get in.
Yeah, I'm taking this game to be a little bit closer. I'm doing Texas 28, Oklahoma State 24. I think this will be a little bit lower scoring of a game. I'm excited to see what Mike Gundy can cook up, how good Ollie Gordon can do. But ultimately, I think Texas is just going to be too good. This team did beat Alabama at Alabama. Like, obviously, it's not the same Alabama team that we see now, but they're still a damn good football team. So I'm going to take Texas, but I think this game ends up pretty close.
Okay. Yep.
Let's talk about the conference that we're all waiting to talk about. Maction, baby. I love me some Maction. Miami of Ohio against Toledo. Toledo ranked in the top 25. They're the 23rd team now. Their only loss still to Illinois at Illinois. I'm going with the Rockets here, man. I've ridden with Toledo all year. I've been a Rocket. That's what they say about me, Rocket Cody. That people have been saying that.
Rocket Cody.
I got to ride with the Rockets, bro. I got to ride with the Rockets. 24-17. They win. They don't cover. That's fine. Hey, we don't need them to cover. We just need them to win. I will be throwing this game in a teaser, but give me Toledo.
It's kind of disappointing. This game's not like Wednesday night standalone.
Oh, it should be. How it should be.
The MAC is all season long. It's like it's a noon game during the Texas game. How many people are going to be tuned in? I so would have watched if it was classic MACtion on Tuesday or Wednesday. With that being said, these teams did play each other. We actually had it in our game picks. I went Miami, Ohio. You went Toledo. You got that pick right. That was in the peak of my demise where I was crumbling into like little worthless nothing. But I've been fighting back, and there's something to be said about playing a team twice, right? This is a revenge game. This is Miami, Ohio making up for their loss. They can watch film. What did we do wrong? What can we fix? It wasn't like Toledo blew out Miami, Ohio. It was a decently close game. So I'm going to go Miami, Ohio 24-23, and they win. They win the MAC. And that's my team. Miami, Ohio. Everyone knows me as the guy who loves Miami, Ohio.
Would you say their mascot was? Miami of Ohio? You were a...
Yeah, that's a really good question. What is their...
Come on, Red Hawk for life.
I'm a Red Hawk for life. That's right. Brain.
It happens to the best of us. I
have the jersey right here. I just can't show you right now.
Absolutely. God damn it. Oh, Jesus. All right. Mountain West. Which, first off, why does the Mountain West have a 3:00 kickoff? That's dumb as hell.
Yeah.
I don't like that. That being said, Boise State, we talked about them earlier. I mean, what a resurgence after they fired their coach. They're now in the Mountain West championship game. And UNLV and Barry Odom and a team that I've given a lot of props to. This should be a really good game, actually. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, I mean, trap line of the week last week was San Jose State, UNLV. UNLV was like a 1-point favorite at home against San Jose State. That obviously, after all we had talked about UNLV, after they beat Air Force, they'd clinched a spot in the Mountain West Championship game. Of course, they lose to San Jose State. So I think this is a definite opportunity for bounce back, kind of put their stamp on this season. But it is still UNLV. Again, 2 years ago, if you're like, oh, the Mountain West Championship game is going to be Boise, UNLV, I'd be like, well, Boise's going to crush them because UNLV is historically not very good at football. Basketball, sure, absolutely. Football, not so much. Boise State, historically, very, very good at football. And I think they're the hotter team right now. So I'm going to go Boise State in a close one, 30-27.
Yeah, this should be an outstanding game. The player that I'm most interested to watch is on Boise State. It's Ashton Genty. Not sure if I'm saying his last name correctly, but the guy has had an outstanding year. He's got 1,100 yards rushing, 530 yards receiving, 18 total touchdowns. The dude is a weapon.
Yeah.
Really, really fun to watch. That being said, I'm riding with UNLV and Boise State, but UNLV and Barry Odom, this is going to be a really good game. I think either way, it's going to come down to the wire. Both of these teams really good at running the football. They can put up points, but they could, cause some havoc on defense, force some turnovers. I'm going with UNLV 31-30. So both of us think it's going to be a tight, pretty high scoring game.
Yeah. They like to score, those teams.
Probably the second biggest game of the slate in terms of, national championship implications. Georgia, Bama in Atlanta for the SEC championship. A hell of a matchup. We've now seen this, I think this is the third straight year we've seen Georgia-Alabama match up in the conference championship game, if not fourth. I think it might be the fourth.
Was Alabama in it last year, or am I tripping?
No, it was LSU last year. You're right.
Yeah,
I'm an idiot.
Okay.
Don't listen to me. I am an idiot.
You were close. You were really close. Good job for being close.
Fuck you. That being said, Georgia and Alabama, this is going to be an outstanding game. The spread has moved quite a bit. It opened at 4 when I wrote this down on my lunch break. It was 5.5. It's now at 6. Georgia being the favorite. I don't know, man.
And yeah, this is tough. I mean, what you have written down, you're obviously free to change it, but what you have written down is Georgia. I probably would go Georgia if you changed it. But this is just one where it's like, I'm down 9 in the record books. And like, if you're giving me the opportunity to get a leg up by picking Alabama, I have to do it. And like all season long, even at the beginning of the year when we did Georgia record predictions, I was like, they're going to coast through the regular season. But I don't think they're not as dominant as years past. Certainly when they play a team that is worthy of beating them, that team will actually do it. In my head, that's what's been going on. They've yet to play that team. So I definitely like the idea of Alabama beating them. But I'm afraid that too many people might be thinking that. My gambling brain is coming into it, where I think Georgia, especially with how the line's moving, Georgia is probably the smarter pick here. But yeah, if you're going to stick with Georgia, I'm just going to go with Alabama.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Georgia. I think Jalen Milroe's getting a lot of hype. He give me that motherfucking Heisman is what he said after that game was over. I think it's a little wild. I think we're a little over our heads a little bit, because out of every player in the SEC that I think should win or every player in this game that I think should win the Heisman, because Jaden Daniels should win the Heisman. But Carson Beck has been outstanding all year long.
Yeah, and his team's undefeated.
So his completion percentage against AP top 25 opponents, 72.5%. I mean, the guy's been consistent as you could ask for. And
to be fair, like Kentucky was ranked when they played, and a bunch of Georgia's. I don't know. They've had an interesting season, but yeah, it's still a fair stat. You're going 35-31. I'm going 38-31. So, but I'm going Alabama. You're going Georgia. I mean, we're both expecting, a lot of points, which is interesting. But I just think it's going to be a really fun game.
Another game in the American Conference that should be really good. SMU, 25th ranked SMU at 17 Tulane. Tulane's a 5-point favorite. I'm going to keep this one very simple with my picks. Michael Pratt is him. He's a hell of a quarterback. And Willie Fritz is a hell of a coach. So give me Tulane by 7, 24-17.
Yeah, I really like this one, actually. I'm going SMU. SMU has been hot. I mean, they are hot right now. Balls to the wall, putting up points at will. They played Memphis, a really good team recently. That game ended up being closer than it was throughout the game. SMU, I don't know. Tulane's kind of been in some close games. They are barely beating some teams that are lesser than them, winning by 2 or 3 here and there. They did prove me wrong last week by beating UTSA, but I have to ride with my Tulane frauds. check here
Yep.
and go with that team.
Speaking of frauds, the Sun Belt title, which doesn't have James Madison because the NCAA is a bunch of cowards and phonies and pussies. App State at Troy. I actually, this game was pretty hard to pick for me because I like Troy, but at the end of the day, there was something about App State. And like when App State played Troy a couple years ago and they won on that Hail Mary, that was just an insane play. I'm riding with App State. 28-17. I think it'll be a close game, like the Sun Belt, Fun Belt, baby. Should be a good game.
Yeah, Sunbelt Fun Belt. I'm also expecting a close game. I'm going to go Troy 26-23. I've been watching Troy because like when I do my rankings for like my AP poll, my version of it, it's always the top 50. Recently, I've cut it down to 40. But Troy's been in there for like 8 weeks in a row now. Like they've been playing really good football, just slowly creeping up the ranks. App State playing really good right now, but they've had some hiccups throughout the season. So I just got to go with Troy because this is kind of my like first time all year that I've been given the chance to take.
Yeah, haven't played in a lot of huge marquee games this year, but have one this Saturday. Yeah. This is the largest spread in the weekend. It's Michigan, Iowa. This is disgusting. The over-under of this game is 35.5. You have 37-0 Michigan. I have 35-3 Michigan. And I'm going to paint you a picture of how this is going to happen. Okay. Michigan is going to be up 35-0. They're going to put in their backups. Their backup quarterback, don't know who it is going to turn the ball over. And Iowa is going to get the ball in good field position. And with about 3 minutes left in the game, in a pure Kirk Ferentz attempt of sadness, in order to not be shut out in the Big Ten title game, Iowa is going to kick a field goal to hit the over. And that is going to be the beautiful end to this Iowa season. That's you can't paint a picture like that.
No, I mean it's going to be a massive amount of the public's going to be betting the under just because they're probably doing what we've been doing the past 10 weeks, which is just close your eyes. It doesn't fucking matter who Iowa's playing. You're taking the under. And I actually think that Michigan is probably just going to hit the over by themselves. 37-0 is generous, in my opinion, because Penn State beat Iowa 30-0 earlier in the season. Iowa's defense is really good, but like what Michigan, did to Penn State makes me think that Michigan could win this game 60-0 if they wanted to. Iowa's not a good team. It's insane. This is one of the weirdest seasons I've ever seen a team have in my life, any sport. I really want them to make a movie about it, if I'm being honest, because it's just nuts what they've been doing, playing terrible football, and they're 10-2. Yep. So yeah, give me Michigan 37-0. And part of me wants to do even more than that, but
yep. So either way, it seems like our degenerate asses are going to be taking the over. So yeah, I love it. Last conference championship game, the 8:00 kickoff. 15 Louisville at number 4 Florida State. Over under is 49. We're both taking the same team here. I knew that your hater ass would, and I couldn't think if I was going to or not. Florida State did not look great to start that game against Florida. And then Florida did what Florida does, and that's commit really shitty penalties and really bad turnovers. And Trey Benson had himself a hell of a game. Shout out to him. But Florida State showed their struggles, man. And I don't believe – I think Louisville, obviously a bad loss to Kentucky, but I think they bounce back. I've got Louisville 24-21.
Yeah. I mean, again, Florida, we were both correct on. They're missing a bowl. They did not make a bowl this year after starting like 5-2. We nailed Florida. And I think part of us nailing it, I remember us talking about like by the time they get to that Florida State game, it's just going to be like, who cares? Like they like Trevor Etienne was like, the Swamp, we're going to go all out for this game. Swamp's going to be wild and awesome. And it was for a little bit, but then they're like, we
Yeah.
fucking stink, and they just stopped trying, and Florida State won. But what I saw from Florida State was a team in shambles. Louisville is not in shambles. 10-2, they're healthy, they're well coached, and like we said, they're up and down, right? So they just lost. Odds are, the way pendulums work, they're going to win this game. I have them winning pretty handedly, 28-17.
Damn.
Give me Louisville.
What would be a huge shakeup for the college football playoff. And that's all the game picks. Quick best bets. I've got two. I'm riding with New Mexico State plus 10.5. You wouldn't know this, but New Mexico State is the best team in the country against the spread this season. They are 10-2-1 against the spread. They're also one of the few teams to play 13 games. So, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've played 13 games this year. Started the year with UMass.
Yeah, I guess they are. They're 10-3 right now.
Yeah, which is crazy. So I'm going to go with New Mexico State against the spread. I understand that it is a true home game for Liberty. But that being said, like New Mexico State, I mean, we talked about it. They're playing well. And then I am riding Michigan minus 23. They've beaten much better teams by more points. And I understand that you could get like the thought of, oh, well, we're looking ahead to the college football playoff, but like that's so far away. I think Michigan comes out. They're still Coach Harbaugh. He's going to come out with his fucking hair on fire. So Michigan minus 23.
Yeah, I have Michigan minus 23 as well. And if I'm being honest, I wouldn't mind buying points in the other direction to make it like Michigan minus 30 and get like a plus 200 on it, because it just, everything screams Iowa stinks. And like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'd be so surprised. Like this, I almost feel too confident, where I know when I feel this confident, sometimes it means that I need to take a step back and, consider everything, but I don't care. Taking it. I'm also going to throw in a Boise State SMU moneyline parlay. Those are probably my favorite two out of these 10 games, moneyline wise, where you can get some good value on it. 10 to win like $35 or $40.
Hell yes. Conference championship weekend is here. We are towards the tail end of college football. It's a beautiful thing. It sucks that we're, hey, hate to see you go, but I love to watch you leave. These games are going to be outstanding. That being said, if you made it this far on the show, do us a favor, like and subscribe, share it with a friend, be a friend, tell a friend, and we'll see you in the next one.